This is Ray Wilcox, who's going to tell us something about some of the early days on the St. Lawrence River. Ray, what was your first vision or memory of the St. Lawrence in Ogdensburg?
7 years old. When I was 7 years of age, in my hometown of Morley, New York, I brought with my mother up here on a shopping trip, and on the return we had to wait for the train in order to pass us back to Madrid. And the old customs dock down at the Rutland Depot there at that time was pretty good use, and there's some men fishing there. And as a young boy I always took for fishing. In fact, I started when I was about 4 years of age, and he got a trimming for it down in my hometown. But I talked with those men there as a little young fellow will, and asked them all foolish questions about this and the fish bite and all this sort of thing. And anyway, by watching them and watching the river and see how big it was compared to one in my hometown, the impression never left me. And I made up my mind someday that I would be fishing the same as old men were. And as fortune would have it, I put quite a number of years on the river. I didn't start, though, to fishing really until after I was married, because as a young fellow I gave it very little thought, although I used to go out and rent canoes from the boat works down here at that time, and used to spend quite a few hours canoeing between here and Prescott and back. Also with a skiff making trips on a Sunday up and down the river for scenery and pass the time away. But to get into fishing, I didn't not get into that until after I was married. And I happened to start that, how I don't really know, but I was always into it. And I got acquainted with some of the old fishermen that had their boat houses down on the first sandy beach below the city here. And in doing so, I asked them questions and what they done this and how the bait to use for this and when the time to go out and the weather and all this. And they gave me a lot of information and took me out with them on different trips. So I began to learn some of the arts that they had. And eventually, as I kept fishing up through the years, those arts paid off because they gave me a good view on the weather conditions, the proper time, and perhaps maybe the best times, although it's still predictable, when to go out and fish for different kinds like bass, perch, or northern pike, anything like that, the weather and so forth. And not only that, it was a good health that I received from being on the river. But that experience that they taught me and some of the incidents that happened are very funny. Perhaps not to some people, but to people who spent a good many years on the river, it's laughable. It couldn't be helped.